Have you ever heard someone call your name only to discover no one was there? Or maybe you were home alone and you heard footsteps upstairs, a familiar voice, a laugh that sounded exactly like someone you love. What if it wasn't them? Today, we are going to be talking about one of the most unsettling entities in paranormal folklore, the mimic. Whether they're supernatural spirits, cryptids, or simply stories passed down through generations, one thing is certain. People from all over the world describe encounters with something that knows exactly how to sound like someone or something they trust. I am your host, Hatter, along with...
Scoop.
I almost said I'm your host, Investigation. Unlike ghosts, vampires, or werewolves.
Werewolves.
Oh, werewolves. I was so confident. I started out so strong.
so strong. Just werewolves.
Werewolves. There is no historical folklore or tradition for a single supernatural being universally known as the mimic. Instead, the modern idea of the mimic appears to combine a bunch of different characteristics from many different traditions. But the general idea is that it's a spirit or being that can imitate voices. It shapeshifts into people that you know or pets. Some type of trickster, entity-esque sort of creature. Jesus Christ, I need to put my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Yes,
I don't know if that comes through. I'm so sorry. Like I've said before, I work at a tattoo shop, and sometimes people are people. And so my phone is blowing up with people being people messages. So, anywho, the term mimic itself comes from... No, I said that wrong. Jesus Christ, I am out of sorts. Fuck, my computer came unplugged. Jesus Christ.
You're making it very hard for me to not laugh.
I'm sorry, I'm funny. Just in case we do leave anything that she says in, I'm going to quickly add, Cass is laying on the floor. She's not usually here, but she was feeling a little bit up for it. Like we said before, she stepped away for just personal reasons to, go through the things that she was going through. But she's laying on the floor in the pod room with us. And sometimes I make a joke and we have to restate it because you just hear coming from the floor. And I don't know what's going to come through or not, but anywho.
Just the gremlin
4.
on the floor.
The
going,
She's fucking cackling down there. Actually, if anybody Wait.
My point exactly.
Why is she laughing now?
My point exactly.
Because I was going to say, if anybody cackles, it's Scoot. Because sometimes
for sure.
you get laughing and you're like...
Just like that.
Just like I hit my mic. Oh, and then the cat.
Everything's going wrong this section.
Oh, God.
You gotta compose yourself, woman.
Peanut gallery on the floor. Oh, God. All right.
Lock in.
Lock in. The term mimic itself has become popular largely through internet communities, paranormal podcasts, YouTube channels, and social media posts over the past decade or two. Although the word mimic is modern and, to be frank, incredibly broad, stories involving deceptive voices have existed for centuries. Many indigenous cultures across North America include stories passed down warning against mysterious voices in isolated places. And often, many other creatures are really what people are encountering when they encounter a quote-unquote mimic. Not always, though. But other creatures do get lumped into the mimic category for various reasons. For instance, and, side note, I'm going to use the actual names of the creatures once. and then I'm going to be using their internet terms. Because culturally and in folklore, saying the name can sometimes attract them to you.
Yeah.
And I know many people don't want to even hear the name spoken. But, for instance, if I use the term flesh pedestrian, there might be people out there that are like, what the fuck is that?
What is that?
So I'm going to say the actual name once, then I'll be going to the internet terms. So, in Appalachia folklore, stories have warned people against following unexplained calls in the woods after dark. However, this is both stories that are passed down from people who live in the region and a lot of stories that have just developed online, which sometimes have a distorted reality to them.
Of course.
It does make it really difficult to track authentic Appalachia folklore and often blends a lot of like modern horror elements with actual traditions. One of the creatures that is often lumped into or potentially part of the mimic's backstory is the Wendigo. From here on out, will be known as the Windy Boy.
The Windy Boy.
The
Windy Boys.
According to Native American folklore, the Windy Boy stalks the woods during dark winter nights looking for human flesh to devour and luring victims with its eerie ability to mimic human voices. Basil H. Johnston, an Ojibwe teacher and scholar from Ontario, described the Windy Boy as, quote, "The Windy Boy was gaunt to the point of emaciation. It's desciated? Hang on. I encountered a word that I don't know.
Decimated?
No.
No, I'm trying to think.
I know how to pronounce decimated, you fuck. No, I'm kidding. And this is it's an actual word. I say that because I have to convince myself of it. Desiccated. Desiccated. Oh my god, I know that word.
That's why I was like,
I don't think I've ever seen that word typed out before, so my brain was like, what is this word?
this word is not real.
This word is not a thing. Anyways, it's desiccated, skin pulled tightly over its bones. Desiccated means like dehydrated, basically.
Yeah.
With its bones pushing out against its skin, its complexion the ash gray of death, and its eyes pushed back deep into their sockets. The Windy Boy looked like a gaunt skeleton recently disinterred from the grave. What lips it had were tattered and bloody. Unclean and suffering from the separation of the flesh, the Windy Boy gave off a strong and eerie odor of decay and decomposition, of death and corruption. End quote. So, very creepy creature. Side note, again, I've been watching Hannibal, which is really good, the TV show, not the movies based on him. And I actually really enjoy it, but the entire time I'm watching it, I was like, they have like imagery of Hannibal as like painted in black with antlers growing out of his head.
Which is typically how they're depicted as in like media and movies, which is not correct in folklore.
But I never put two and two together that they were portraying him as a Windy Boy, because Windy Boys are cannibals.
Yes.
And so even from the beginning they had those elements, and I never put that together that it was like, because he's a cannibal, he's showing up as, and I was like, oh.
Yes.
Another creature from Native American folklore that is lumped in / used to develop the story of the mimic is the skinwalker. Once again, going to be using the term flesh pedestrian because a lot of traditions say that flesh pedestrians, if you speak their name, they can be more, it increases your chances of encountering them. Yeah. And just for our people, there are a lot of people out there, especially Native American people, who don't fuck with the word at all.
Yes.
So, gonna just switch it. Some traditions say that flesh pedestrians are powerful medicine men who succumb to the temptation of using their abilities for evil. Other traditions claim that the flesh pedestrians are the punitive form of any man, woman, or child who commits a deep sin. Either way, it is incredibly taboo to use their name. And because of this, most Native Americans won't even speak about the creature.
Yeah.
And some of that is because they didn't want the masses to get a hold of the story. But nonetheless, people be people, and the masses did get a hold of the story. And the legend spread. As well as when the Flesh Pedestrian Ranch in Utah became a thing, it just amplified the talk about them. Which I do want to cover that ranch at some point. I think that would be really cool, but not today.
Not today.
Not today. Nevertheless, it is important to also point out that because of the reluctance from Native Americans to speak about the creature, the general public did what it did best and spun the tale far from the truth.
As they do.
As we do. These beings aren't even noted to be in Appalachia at all, but the internet has seemed to make the mountains part of its home, which Appalachia does not have flesh pedestrians. We have windy boys. Flesh pedestrians are out west.
Yes.
So, if you're listening to this, stop calling every creepy creature. And Appalachia does have a lot of creepy creatures in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
But can we stop calling them all flesh pedestrians, please? Anyways, side note. As well as, even though the original tale is that a flesh pedestrian is a human-like creature, but is usually described more like a deformed beast with some human features, the term basically has become unanimous with shapeshifter. So a lot of people have taken elements of the flesh pedestrian's shape-shifting ability and has turned it also into the mimic. It has created part of the mimic.
Yeah.
Outside of North America, European folklore also contains numerous examples of supernatural deception. Like fairies in Celtic traditions were often believed to imitate sounds or lure travelers away from safety. Germanic legends include spirits capable of misleading travelers through forests. Japanese folklore describes the kitsune, which is a fox spirit, as to disguise themselves as humans or create convincing illusions. Across cultures, one common theme appears repeatedly, something that cannot be trusted because it appears or sounds familiar. So even if the mimic itself maybe isn't its own creature, the themes surrounding it are shown across many cultures and passed down for generations. Which I always feel like that gives some sort of merit to the stories, because like we have all these different cultures and all these different areas that have like similar stories.
Yes.
It's like that has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. People are encountering something. They often hear their name called or hear a loved one asking for help, footsteps in an empty house, voices of their loved one coming from another room, and even in some cases, people are physically seeing one of their loved ones or sometimes pets when they know that it's not them. So they'll, see or hear their dog scratching at the door and the dog's curled up on the couch next to them, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Fucking weird. But the popularity of mimic stories has grown dramatically because really, of being online in the online network.
Of course.
Platforms like Reddit, YouTube, TikTok, and podcasting, little on the nose there, have allowed people to compare experiences. As stories become widely shared, certain details appear repeatedly. So are mimics real? I pulled some stories from online to read to you guys.
Okay.
So, the first one is from FancyBit7003. They said, I met a mimic. What was his intention? This happened in early summer of 2020 when I was 15. It was one of those afternoons where time feels heavy and slow, and it was around 3 or 4 p.m. The sky was dark, and there was a storm outside, and it was heavily raining. We had just finished lunch, and my dad was asleep on the couch, and my mom was laying there too, lights off, scrolling on her phone. The house was quiet, and I was extremely bored. For a long time, I had wanted to go longboarding in the rain. It was something I always wanted to do, but never had the chance to, especially knowing my dad would have never let me. He was much stricter than my mom. That day, when I saw him sleeping, I remember thinking this was the perfect moment to finally live that magical moment. So I took my longboard and went outside. There's a mountain road near my house where I used to ride a lot. It's a downhill road, quite long, very isolated, and has a very specific layout. On the right side, there's basically a mountain wall, just rock, nothing else. On the left side, there's a fence, and beyond that is basically a sudden drop that goes down into a forest. And even further down there, there's a river. No paths, no houses, nothing, just empty space. Because of the rain and the weather, I knew the road would be almost empty. I had a routine when I rode there. I would go down the hill on the right side of the road, reach the bottom, stop, check both directions for cars, because the road curves on the top and had limited visibility. Cross to the other side, then walk back up on the left side to do it again. That afternoon, I reached the bottom of the hill and stopped like I always did. The rain was still falling, and it would sometimes end up in my eyes because of the wind, so I was trying to be extremely careful to not miss any incoming cars. As usual, I looked to the right, no cars. Then I looked to the left, and that's when I saw my father. He was walking down toward me from the top of the road. He didn't have an umbrella. He was wearing his outside clothes, not what he had been wearing at home. His steps were fast and heavy, and he looked almost angry, the kind of walk that immediately tells you that you're in trouble. My heart dropped. I thought I was completely screwed. I thought about how he wouldn't let me go out for a period of time, and I genuinely thought that this was the last time I would ever be allowed to ride my longboard. What confused me was the direction he was coming from. To reach that road from our house, you normally go from the downhill side, but he was coming from the opposite direction. I remember thinking it didn't make sense, but then I had thought he walked all the way around the village just to find me, which made me panic even more. I waved to him to make him know that I am doing good and maybe calm him before I go face to face with him. And as I turned my head to the right to cross the road and walk toward him, as soon as I stepped forward, I turned my head back to the left and he was gone. There was nowhere he could have gone in that amount of time, nor the road had anywhere you could possibly go since both ways were dead ends. I stood there for a moment and I tried to convince myself maybe I imagined it, but I didn't. I was and am still 100% sure that was my dad. It felt impossible that someone could just vanish like that, so I decided to walk up the hill and check. I walked all the way up the road, slowly looking everywhere. When I reached the top, the road was completely empty. I even looked over the fence and down into the forest below, trying to understand if somehow he could have gone down there, and there was nothing. I went home immediately. When I walked into the house, my dad was exactly where I had left him, asleep on the couch in the same position with the same clothes. My mom was still there, and I asked her if my dad had gone out, and she looked at me confused and said no. To this day, I don't know what I saw walking toward me in the rain, and I have no idea what were his intentions. And one commenter, obviously, to the post was like, nah, like, that didn't happen.
Like, you know.
Right. There's always somebody. But this is when I was like, oh, because their original poster, the OP, posted a photo of the road and showed that on one side it was literally like a drop-off mountain, but that went up. The other side was a drop-off down.
Oh.
So if somebody was there and he turned around, like somebody would have had to drop off the cliff on the one side.
Yeah.
For them to go anywhere, but then it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would your dad do that? Especially just because he was mad at you. Like,
yeah.
But that's when another comment suggested that he saw a mimic. In another post by Luxy Moon, they said, I live on an old country property and I live with my ex-sister-in-law, her new husband, and their 3 children. They all went out of town for the day and were expected back this evening. My sister-in-law texted me she would be home in an hour. At about the hour mark, I hear the front door open downstairs and I hear them all enter. I hear grocery bags moving around and clearly my sister and nephew's voice saying something I couldn't make out. I hop out of bed to go greet everyone and just walk into an empty living room. I actually have a Ring camera in the living room that caught my reaction, but since it didn't have the mimic, I didn't include it. I spin around in a few circles, just confused, looking around, and I keep looking out the window to see if maybe they parked somewhere else. Only for, in that moment, to see the headlights of the truck come down the road. That's when I left the house to meet them outside because I was freaked out. What the hell was that?
Yeah, fair enough.
And then, finally, my last story, which I was like, well, what the fuck, is from Relatively Funkadelic.
Cool username.
Oh, right. I was like, that's an awesome
That's
username. I've been searching for some semblance of similarity in someone else's encounter for 3 years now, hoping another's experience might align even a little bit with my own to validate it. Until last night, I found details aligning with my own encounter, but nothing I felt was concrete enough to make my story not sound absolutely batshit insane. It still does sound insane, I know, and I have no way to further explain any of it. So all I have is what I witnessed. I found a post on here from 18 days ago that sounds eerily similar to my own. The key difference being the familiarity of the voices mimicked, leading me to wonder if this thing had been watching us for a while to get both of our voices down. It would have had to hurt us. Fucking English, man. Why is that a sentence? It would have had to hurt us. It would have had to have heard us at the most recent 10 hours earlier before we had left for work. You know, I understand why people trying to learn English are like, that's the worst language in the world. Because that's a real sentence. It would have had to have heard us. Like, that's how you would say that. And it's insane. Anyways, that's off subject. Anyways. To preface this, I typed all of this up as a direct message to send to someone else after reading the other guy's story, so the syntax is going to be awful. Sorry, this all reads like a trashy direct message, but I honestly get terrified of this thing when I spend too much time talking about it, so I'd rather not type it all out again. I've been wanting to write this since it happened in 2018, maybe 2019, but I legit get really uncomfortable the moment I start. I'm sure the thing isn't actually watching or whatever, but I don't know. I just hate retelling it, honestly. I think it's important to share, though, because finding someone else's story led me to finding several others that seemed to align with whatever I saw, and it was honestly so cathartic. I figured maybe somebody else might be in the same boat and need some sort of validation they aren't going insane. So I was living down in West Texas in this national park where the restaurant I was working at the time rested at the top of a 15-minute hike up a mountain trail from the housing they had us in. This dude definitely wrote it as like a DM because there's no punctuation in that entire paragraph I just read. So I was like... Anyways, I closed up the restaurant after everyone left each night, so I was always an hour or two later coming down the hill than everyone else. Usually pretty empty, really quiet, uncommon to encounter anyone else as the only thing at the top of the mountain is a closed restaurant, gift shop, store, and some of the trailheads. There isn't much reason for anyone else to be on the trail at that hour. And this one fucking night, I'm coming down, no moon, so it was pitch black, empty trail, characteristically quiet. I round this last bend to get to my house, and right before I get off the trail to take a shortcut through the thicket of cactus and brush, there were maybe 15 to 20 trees. Even though it's a desert, the top of the mountain has a high Sierra microclimate. When I hear my best friend / roommate call out my name, clear as day, in the other direction. He said my name, and when I turned, he said it again. In retrospect, it sounded funny. It was close, 15 yards maybe, but it sounded far off at the same time. Like if someone recorded his voice from far away but played it very nearby. It just sounded off, but not enough to flip a switch immediately. And maybe I'm painting the memory of it differently than it actually sounded. So I'm facing my house maybe 50 yards away, and the voice comes from directly to my left. On this foothill of the mountain we hike around, it has much more tree coverage than the trail I was on, and considerably more than the thicket separating me from the clearing surrounding my house. If you walked 5 feet in the direction the voice came from, you'd completely disappear from view of anyone on the trail or on the back porch of the house immediately. So hearing my friend's voice calling me over, I was like, oh cool, we're night hiking. And I turned to follow it. But right before I take my first step into the tree line, I hear his actual voice down on our porch saying, hey, who are you talking to? Which stops me. I turn back to face my house, confused as shit, just in time to see this fucking thing burst out of the fucking thicket I was just about to shortcut through to begin with before hearing the first voice and turning away. And from the exact spot I had walked down every single night, this fucking thing bolts. It was humanoid technically, but the thing is tall as shit and way too skinny for a human. Like at least 8 foot tall but slim. It looked inhumanly slender. He was hunched over, running like he just burst off of a track mark, you know? but he kept the same form the whole time, never got all the way upright. Okay, so as for the color, that has always fucked with me, because for one, I'm colorblind as shit, and it was like a greenish yellow thing, and I get greens and yellows mixed up a lot. This hue of green and yellow, at least. And for two, it looked like it was giving off its own glow, which has always sounded so ludicrous. I never tell anyone that I do not absolutely trust to give me the benefit of the doubt before thinking that I'm completely bullshitting. Because if I heard the story, I would honestly think someone at the very least might be a little bit bullshitting. Our back porch light was on, though, and the thing lined up with where it would have been shining. So if this thing was translucent, it definitely could have taken on that sheen by reflecting the porch light. The colors do kind of line up, I guess. If you reflected the light, it may have looked like this thing's color, but it certainly wasn't identical. Honestly, though, I swear it had its own shine to it, like looking at a glow stick that's dying. More than enough to see, but kind of faint. Regardless, it was a light that definitely wasn't there a second before when I had gotten to the shortcut. It would have stuck out for at least 50 yards of the walk. It should be noted, had I followed that thing's voice, two things would have happened. One, I would have completely disappeared from the view of anyone, and two, I would have turned my back on whatever that thing was and entered into a thicket of trees, weeds, and cactus far too dense for me to turn around, run, fight back, anything. And that trail I would have gone towards leads directly to the edge of a cliff that drops down into a massive break in the mountain, in parentheses, the Window in Big Bend National Park. That cleanly drops all of the 6,000 feet to the wide open desert below. That could be the purpose of that direction. To be honest, if I was going to try to do some nefarious shit, it would be the perfect place to both find someone and lead them quickly to a spot where no one else could come up on you. Legit, in the middle of the day, you could probably make someone disappear over there if you wanted. Anyway, how this thing was running, it immediately felt like I'd fucking spooked it, like how a deer runs off at a noise. But this was different in that it seemed a lot more determined. It seemed intelligent, aware of its own movement, not just acting out of instinct, kind of like spooking a person if they'd been watching you from the bushes or something, you know? Like spooked, but sentient, and definitely acting like I'd just foiled some nefarious plan. So naturally, I also fucking bolt, exposing my back to this thing, but taking the opposite, slightly longer way to my back porch. My fucking buddy, God bless his soul, is still there when I make it, and he asks again, "Who are you with?" His face is just confused as shit, and he keeps looking past me, and I'm like, "You heard it too, right?" And he says, "Yeah, where are they?" And I was like, "What? There was multiple?" Apparently, from his perspective, he had heard multiple voices alongside my own, all carrying on and joking around, talking back and forth pretty loudly. He said there were at least 3 other voices talking to mine, but that it sounded like a whole crowd was coming down the trail. He said he could clearly hear us getting closer and closer for the past few minutes, and just assumed I'd run into a hiking group and talked with them as we headed down. Not the most uncommon thing in the daytime, but pretty uncommon for the hour of the night. It took me a minute to show him that I wasn't messing around and had not just split off from a group of hikers. I was completely alone and had not vocalized a word until he called up to ask, "Who are you with?" It took a second to even express my side of what was going on. I was so out of whack I couldn't find the words to actually explain, so I just kept shouting, "I swear to God, I just heard your voice, and then this fucking thing, dude, this thing," or something similar. Eventually it registers that there are no other lights on the trail. I wasn't using a flashlight that night, so maybe there was a little bit of moon. And I had just heard his voice calling me off trail into the dark, and we both began trying to figure out what the fuck we just witnessed. This part might be a little crazy, but I'm not implying anything. I'm just saying. This is what I'd been doing on the walk down before this happened. So obviously, walking home solo, I hadn't actually said a word. Whoever he heard was certainly not me, and I certainly didn't come with a crowd. But I'd just been praying like crazy on the hike down. There had just been this super dark negative energy in the house lately, and I was just trying to kind of surround myself with relatively funkadelic light and positivity, asking God to give me strength before I walked back in. And out of nowhere, midway through the trail, I got this, like, absolutely overwhelming joy, like absolute ecstasy. I was, like, screaming inside, happy as bones, and just felt like I could take on the whole motherfucking world. Like, no matter what came, I could have taken it. Maybe I am implying something, because call me crazy, but I've always felt like that had something to do with how the night turned out as opposed to how maybe it would have. I don't know. I know that part does really make me sound insane, but so does the rest of it, so whatever. I certainly don't think it was coincidence. I'm just not sure what to make any of it. Every detail means every detail. That's just what was going on with your boy as the walk was happening. It would have been noteworthy and memorable night had the thing not done any of this. It was that powerful of an energy. Anyway, that's pretty much it. The only other thing is our memories of it. Out of nowhere, I just sort of stopped thinking of it. Like, not forgot, but like it was hidden behind a thick fog in my head. The next morning, I told the story to a friend, and she uncharacteristically shut me down and just said something like, "Y'all are crazy and getting scared of these mountains," and just walked away. It was really not like her just to dismiss someone, especially a friend, without even hearing them out. She was a real empathetic lady. It was legit just like she heard something that triggered a memory she refused to touch and shut it back down before it got too close. I don't know, I could be reading into it, but that's happened a couple times with the story. And anyway, we'd been living on that mountain on and off for a few years at that point and had never once heard or seen anything remotely similar to that thing. Until that night, we'd never even heard a story even vaguely resembling that. It just wasn't like we got spooked of our own house or the trail we took twice a day, every day. It wasn't like we were seeing and hearing things based on stories we projected into the darkness, you know? But the weirdest fucking thing happened the moment she walked away. It was legit like a fucking fog just slowly poured over the memory, and the last time I remember thinking of it was that moment, and then it just fucking disappeared for months. How in the world does something that massive, that frightening happen in your life, and you just stop thinking about it? And then one day, it just popped the fuck back up. I was honestly so surprised and unsure of how I hadn't thought of it in so long. It was almost more baffling than anything we actually witnessed. I asked my friend just before I sent this if he felt the same fog thing, and he said absolutely. He doesn't really like talking about that night, and he's told me that, but I can't help but bring it up as often as possible, hoping by talking it through we'd find some sort of explanation for any of what happened. Even as I typed this message, though, it felt like I'd asked him a million times already and just forgotten his answer. Maybe I have. That isn't a super uncommon thing to do, I guess. Anyway, that's pretty much everything. I'm real sorry if you did read all this and it was underwhelming. That's why I dropped the TLDR. I didn't want someone to waste all their time reading it if they were gonna think it was dumb or not worth it. But I really felt like I needed to convey as absolutely many details as I could possibly remember, just in case someone reading this has had any sort of experience with any part of it, a mimic or humanoid or the memory loss, anything, I don't know. I really don't know what to make of all this. All I have are the details of that night and my memory doing something bizarre afterwards. I have never known what to make of it, but the other guy's post from a few weeks back honestly helped me after 3 years of grappling with the experience. Just seeing something that might be similar seems like I've learned as much about it as I honestly feel comfortable knowing. I just figured maybe somebody else might be in the same boat, and maybe we need and maybe need to see some sort of validation. Just validation, I guess. Anyways, thanks for reading. Sorry if it was a waste of your time.
That's really spooky.
Right? That one I was like, ew.
Yeah, that one was really spooky.
And the comments, well, first of all, one of the comments said Big Bend has some fucking scary tales come out of it. Last spring, there was a TikToker who swore she heard a brutal murder of a couple, but no one would help her look into it. There's also weird reports of hill people groups living there and kidnapping folks. So that, I was like, Jesus Christ. But the one from Glitchy McGlitchface, it said, from your description of the creature and its uncanny mimicry, it sounds like a type of cryptid people call crawlers. I suggest cross-posting this. I'll think you'll find some others with similar experiences. And that's what really also made me like look into it, because not only the crawlers, but then somebody else said it also reminds me stories about flesh pedestrians, a Native American figure that is able to mimic the sounds of loved ones or animals to draw people in. In fact, the flesh pedestrian is native to the area of America you are located in. P.S. Native American knowledge about the creature suggests that you should never speak the proper name of the creature aloud.
Yes.
But yeah, so even this is saying that it sounds like another entity in and of itself. So that's what my point was at the beginning, is like, it does feel like mimics are real in some capacity. But I do think that they're probably actually other creatures, and people have just broadened the term to be like, it's a mimic.
Like a broad spectrum.
Yeah,
term.
Exactly. But yeah, that's a little dive into the mimic story. We did a lot of true crime this month.
We did.
And that's because our Doss House episodes are coming out.
Yes.
But I wanted to do a little something spooky, not just like paranormal, because the Doss House
is paranormal. yeah.
But I said "but" like twice in the same exact way, and that was weird. But yeah, so I wanted to find some creepy creature to cover, and we're not really doing like set states or anything, so I didn't want to just be like cryptids in Nebraska or whatever. So yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. I liked reading the stories. If you guys have experienced anything unusual, maybe you have your own mimic story, email it to us at investigatingwithus@gmail.com.
Well, don't go too far, because we'll catch you in the next investigation.
You forgot the thanks for listening.
Oh, thanks for listening. And don't go too far, because we'll catch you in the next investigation. Bye.
Bye.